All right, Steelers. Ironically, here we are, the team that is yet to lose in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And so by that merit, we'll say the best team in the NFL, even if they're not. Well, we're the best team in the NFL right now. I don't even really think that that's necessarily the lead. Because to me, the lead is if Lamar Jackson just plays a little bit better, they win the game. Yeah. The 2 picks that he threw, especially the second one, changed they're up 21-7.
That's right.
They're controlling the game. The first pick six, bad read, it happens, whatever. But then they came back, they ripped off 21 points, and he threw a ridiculous ball in the flats that you just can't throw. Well, yeah, that's the lead to me.
Well, he's confused by zone dogs. And what I mean, what a zone dog is you dog from one side, and then you drop a lineman, like a defensive lineman, out the other side. And so it seems like you're getting this extra pressure. We don't have enough offensive linemen to block all the people that are coming, when in actuality, you do have enough offensive linemen to block all the people that are coming, because we're dropping out a defensive lineman. And so I think that happened twice. Both interceptions, it was the same thing. So you got to give credit to Mike Tomlin and this Steelers defense for knowing how to confuse Lamar Jackson and force him into interception throws. Not just bad throws, but interception throws. If he fires that ball to the second interception, the one that you were talking about when they were up 17-7, and the game, was really in their hands. If he fires that ball and makes it only catchable for the tight end as opposed to lofting it to the tight end, then maybe it's knocked down and, a defensive lineman can't just intercept it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that made all the difference in the world. It didn't give the Steelers the lead, but it changed the momentum of that game. And, the crazy thing is, as poorly as Lamar Jackson perceivably played, he actually played pretty good, save for those three. There were 3 turnovers that mattered. That one, the first one, which led to points, the second one, which led to points, and the third one, which took points off of his board. Though the third one of the fumbles took points off his board. The other fumble didn't matter because it was on 4th down. But other than those 3 plays, he played a pretty good game and well enough to beat
the pick six.
I know, but he played well enough but that pick six was the first play of the game.
Still 6 points.
But he drove right down the field and got him back to 7-7. And kind of, in my mind, that washes. And then when you go up 17-7, you've put yourself in a position to win the game, because your defense was playing great football. The Ravens defense was playing great football against a very good Pittsburgh Steelers offense. The problem is that when he had to go make some huge plays, especially in the red zone, he couldn't do it. He turned the ball over, and that's ultimately going to get you beat when you don't score points against a team like Pittsburgh.
See, I can't say that it washes it. To me, it's a different scoreboard for the defending MVP. If we're sitting here talking about Joe Burrow, I can say, okay, I got you. Yeah. Even Baker Mayfield at this stage, and Mayfield was horrendous. I know it was whip and win, but Baker Mayfield was
But you saw the stat, BT, yesterday. Did you see the stats about his, after 7 games, his MVP season to this season?
No, I didn't see that.
They are almost exactly the same. Touchdown interception ratios. Maybe his rating was a little bit higher last year. Maybe.
After 7 games.
This is
right around when he went bonkers.
They were 5-2.
Yep.
He had, he lost the games that he's not supposed to win. So he lost the games against the better teams. He's not good against the good teams, as we all know. I don't know if that's a pressure thing. I don't know if that's him trying to do too much, which actually it felt like he was trying to do in this game yesterday. The pick six on the first play, notwithstanding everything else, it was like he was trying to do a little bit too much. It's hard to just let the game come to you when you feel like, and you've been told that you are the catalyst, right? You're going to make this happen for us. And then, all right, kid, calm down. Like, it's 2 contradictory messages that I feel like he gets a lot of times.
Well, they better find a good balance, because if they don't, they're not going to win.
That's right.
And by the way, this team is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I look at the Baltimore Ravens, right? Now, there's some, I don't want to say internal fighting, but there's a, Hollywood Brown's putting up on social media. Then he deletes it. He's not happy with his role in the offense. I don't blame him. But you don't love to see these things coming out of the clubhouse, out of the locker room, so to speak. But listen, forget about what Lamar did comparatively from his first 7 games last year to this year, or whatever, 7 or 8 games. The numbers, I mean, in 2019, his overall completion percentage was 66.1%. He's barely above 60 right now. His interception rate is up. His touchdown percentage is down. And again, you and I, listen, we've been doing the show. How many times do we actually reference like passer rating and QBRs? We might use it as a transitional point. We really don't. But I do think it's interesting to illuminate the difference, at least this year. And if people want to lean on these stats, do what you want. Last year, 113 passer rating. This year, 94. Last year, 82.3 QBR. This year, 61.6. That is alarming, and there's about 30-yard difference in terms of rushing yards each week.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board, Lamar Jackson's not nearly the same player, and I want to know why.
Because people start to figure it out.
Okay, but where's the adjustment coming?
It's as simple as that.
When's the adjustment coming?
What adjustment can you make when you have a running quarterback? It's not hard.
Which is
it's
why
not easy.
I agree. Which is why, do you remember the conversation? I don't know if you agreed. I don't think you shot it down. But I remember getting some flack on social media. This was before the start of the season. I said, Kyler Murray's going to be better than Lamar Jackson. There's no doubt in my mind. Everyone's like, what are you kidding me? And this was my fear with Lamar Jackson. Where's the refinement? Where's the evolution? I need to see a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot thrust him in the upper tier of quarterbacks. You can't do it.
Yeah, well,
even with the MVP award. I'm sorry.
Well, you can't expect him to be an upper tier thrower of the football because he's not really comfortable throwing to the sidelines. He's very good throwing over the middle, and he's very good throwing corner routes when you're in the red zone. But when you have to throw those deep comebacks or those out routes, it's not his forte.
No,
because to throw that pass, you have to have a like an over the top traditional release, and he always gets.
Why though? Why though? Just so people. Why?
One, because of the line, because you're usually in the pocket throwing over a line, right? And more importantly, the defender who's usually coming from the inside. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I got you.
He can't sight the ball if it's coming this way. He can sight the ball if it's coming if it's coming over top, it's harder for the defender to sight the ball. If it's coming from the side, the defender can see it. And so he's just struggled to make those throws, especially because he's always late on them. BT. So what happens is they end up being inside shoulder. So back shoulder, which is closer to the defender. Right? It's like, so he's got to learn how to basically throw it out of bounds and let his wide receiver catch the football on the sideline. That's how you train your mind to throw that pass.
Is that a trait?
Throw it out of bounds.
Is that a trait?
It's just practice.
But
it's
is it a trait that with repetition always comes?
I don't know. No, the answer is no.
Probably no.
Probably no, because we've seen guys that just never have made it in the NFL. Why? Because they can't throw those passes.
But did they have the arm strength?
And especially the long throw from the left hash say to the right sideline.
But he's got enough zip on.
Of course he does. But I think it's mechanics more than anything.
I got you. Interesting. That's interesting.
He tends to, like, even his really good throws. Watch his feet; they're not moving. You know what I mean? He just has his arm. He can just whip it. Like he can whip a arcing pass.
Yes,
just literally just whip it.
I can see it right now.
You can see it, like
usually in the middle of the field, down the seam,
and it's easy, and it lands right where it needs to be. It's great, right? But there's no defender there that can make a play on that. But when you're you can't do that to an out route, to a sideline pass, and so. His mechanics are a little bit off, and as a result, those are his worst passes. But that's what defenses are going to keep giving him. They're going to take away those inside routes, as we saw in the first play of the game, the pick six. And so he's got to learn how to be diverse in his repertoire. Otherwise, again, like I said, you figure him out. You have a spy, a rover, whatever you want to call it, that prevents him from having these huge, running games, and blowing a game open that way. And if you can do that, then you can stop this Ravens team. And I think that's why we've seen the good teams with good defenses could curtail him a lot of the time.
Okay, let's get back to the Steelers now, the other part of this equation here. I still think that I'm not, it's funny, I picked them to get to the Super Bowl. I'm not, and I picked them to win. I'm not convinced they're the best team in football. Not even close.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that yet, even though they've yet to lose.
But they just got Avery Williamson in a trade from that team you don't mention.
He'll help them out.
He will, because of Bush. But then Bush is out.
For sure. Now, he doesn't move like Bush.
No, of course not. No.
And he ripped up his ACL last year in the final preseason game against Atlanta. But he's a savvy vet. He was a good player for Tennessee. Yeah. No, smart move. The good pickup by the Steelers, getting Avery Williamson from that team. But in the AFC, to me, like, can the Steelers lose to Kansas City? No doubt. Can they lose to the Ravens? They could. Can they lose to Tennessee? Well, they just beat them. And the more I watch Tennessee, first of all, they're 5-2, as are the Colts. So you figure the AFC South winner, whomever it is of those two teams, whichever team gets that, they'll probably be 11-5-ish max, right?
Yep.
Probably. So that game, when it comes to it, if it comes to it, it will be in the Steelers' crib at Heinz Field, probably, maybe with more fans at that point. Mm-hmm. They're not losing to Tennessee in the playoffs. They're not losing to the Colts in the playoffs. But
not at home, for sure.
Not at home. They could lose to Kansas City, and they could lose to the Ravens if Lamar Jackson tightens some things up.
Yeah, that doesn't make mistakes. He had 4 turnovers in this game, which is uncharacteristic for Lamar Jackson. He had 3 in the first 7 games combined. So that's a credit to the Steelers' scheme and defense, but also to how opportunistic they are. And I think that's why the Steelers team is undefeated still. Of course, there's going to be a letdown game at some point. They're going to have a letdown game, and the question is, are they going to be able to win? Are they going to be able to find it, even though there's a letdown happening, and you know it. Mm-hmm. And so far, so good.
I think the Eagles game was that category.
Probably. No,
they found the way to win. They gave up points, but they won.
That's exactly right. That game had no business being close.
No.
And then it became close, but they hung on and win. Mm-hmm. They hung on and won. And that's a testament to the leaders on both sides of the football. And, you make plays in crunch time in situations where it matters, and you find ways to win. The Steelers have done that. And so that's why they're so likable, because you have this expectation of who they are going to be and who they're going to play, and then they live up to it. And even when they don't, they still find a way to live up to it. It makes them reliable. It makes them not great, but it makes them the team that you can root for, even if you're not a Steelers fan. Mm-hmm. And because it seems like Big Ben, who went through maybe a career-ending injury, now he's back, and he's got all these young, fun weapons around him. It makes it for a good team to get behind when you're trying to pick a team to potentially go to the Super Bowl this year.
Tink, you know what it is? There's not a lot of and this is what you're saying. I'll just put it in different words. Yeah. There's not a lot of wild fluctuations in what they bring to the table each week.
That's exactly right.
Like you've seen
and that's Mike Tomlin.
No doubt. That's where I was going. You've seen some uneven performances from the Saints this year.
Yep.
Uneven performances from the Green Bay Packers. Mm-hmm. Not that the Bills are quite this category, but the Bills have had some uneven performances. Seattle has had a few uneven performances. I'm not saying that the Steelers always had their A game, but they very rarely trot out the C-minus game.
Yeah, but
that's great.
And even if you get it for a quarter or maybe even a couple quarters, it's going to turn to A at some point.
Yeah, and they're a great organization.
Yeah, they're just fantastic. I mean, it's the personality of the head coach. Like, we talk about this all the time. It's a cliche, but it's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. You got a tough, no nonsense. All right, we got to get our you-know-what together. Let's go. Let's get this thing done. And that's what they tend to do each and every week, even against a team like Baltimore this past weekend, who had them dead to rights. Even though Baltimore was making some mistakes, they had them dead to rights. And then they stepped up and made some huge plays when it mattered.
You know what I think's happened to, and you know this, after a while, the voice stops resonating. Mm-hmm. Even think about when you were 6 or 7 versus, age 16 or 17, like the threat from mom and dad.
Yeah.
It's softened a little, whatever, I'll find a way around this. And, in a marriage a long time, not that you're not going to listen or when you have to, but, you just, what you have to process and what you don't have to necessarily react to right away is what I'm trying to say. And, I think what's happened with the Steelers is that if there was a bit of a dilution in Tomlin's message, and I think there was a couple of years ago, the roster's turned over a little bit.
Yeah,
and that's
by the way,
but
the leaders have stayed.
Well, but when I say that, that's not a knock on Mike Tomlin. We talk about the atrocious nature of the NFL from a physical point of view, but from a messaging point of view, there's also attrition after a while. Outside of Belichick, the voice becomes diluted, and it doesn't resonate, doesn't punctuate and rip through a locker room the way it used to. Happened with Coughlin. It happens with all the guys who are. It happened with Parcells in various spots. I mean, guys who are winners. Mariucci, it happened. It just happens. And I'm saying Mariucci because he had other spots after the Niners and it went a little sideways, Detroit, et cetera. So I look at this team almost as like a Pittsburgh 2.0 because they still have Ben, they still have the coach, still have weapons. Their defense is now more of an identity. They're just fun to watch. I can wax poetic about them for a while. They're just a fun. Like when the Steelers are on, I enjoy watching them.
Yeah,
I don't care who they're playing.
That's right. I agree. And on the other side, it's a little something, but it is something to keep an eye on. This tweet from Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, that was deleted, basically saying that we have all the weapons, but you can't use them if you're not giving us the ball. I mean, I can pull it up directly, but I don't have it exactly. It's something along that lines. Basically, give us the ball as wide receivers. Here, I have it here. Hollywood Brown said, "What's the point of having soldiers when you never use them?" And this is obviously, I'm talking about the Ravens' loss. He wants the football, and I don't blame him. He comes from a college where he just got fed, just like all these great wide receivers in college do. But in the NFL, when your best skill is running the football, and let's not forget, the Ravens ran for over 200 yards against the vaunted Steelers defense.
They did.
They got it done on the ground. You start to get disgruntled. I don't want to call him a diva yet. But you get these wide receivers that start getting diva-ish, saying, "I want to be a part of this. So get me involved." I don't think it's an issue, but it is something to keep an eye on with the Ravens. They need to squash this and squash it quick. John Harbaugh, who was also a good coach, needs to control this.
So we'll get into this Pats-Bills game. First, hit us with the Cam stuff. Then I want to hit you with a Bills angle. Go ahead, T.
So
what you got?
there's one thing that you learn. There's a couple of things you learn as a running back, a running player, because you're not necessarily a running back. In this case, quarterbacks are running players as well. When you're heading towards the sideline, put the ball in your outside arm. It's as simple can be in football. And the reason that you do that is because when you're running to the sideline, most of your pursuit, now there might be a corner on the outside, most of your pursuit is coming from the inside. Most of those guys that are swiping, trying to knock the ball away, come from the inside. And on that last run, Cam Newton, it was a run the whole time, it wasn't like he was scrambling. He knew what was happening. Stutter, I'm going to the left. A quarterback sweep, right? You see a lot of quarterback powers from Cam Newton. This was a quarterback sweep to the left. So there wasn't even like initial protection. It was running sweep to the left. Put the ball in your left hand. If the ball's in his left hand, he doesn't fumble. Pats either tie or win that football game, BT. Simple as simple can be. That's football 101, and he didn't follow it.
How many times does he do that?
Don't know.
Where the ball's not stripped?
He might be a right-handed only carrier.
That's why I'm asking.
But here's the other thing to me: if you're a right-handed only carrier, you're creating targets on your throwing arm, which doesn't make any sense to me either.
That's right.
So if he's going to be one-handed, he should be left-handed only ball carrier. Now, I fail to believe that he's like deficient. Oh, my right arm's just stronger, so I want to hold it my right. I don't think that's the case because most people are balanced like that. And in fact, it's usually your other side that's stronger than your dominant side. Like you jump off your left leg if you're right-footed. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
So
still get off the ground 6 inches with either foot. It doesn't matter. But yeah,
at this point, I can't get much higher either. My knees are not good enough to jump. I can run, I just can't jump. No, so I kept seeing that every single time, and I remember saying at some point they're going to knock that ball out, and then it happened at obviously the wrong time.
Oh man, that was an ugly game.
It was.
You know what it was?
I can't even laud the Bills. No, hey, great job, great victory.
No, I'm going to do anything but that. I'm going to, take some issue with where they've been the last couple of weeks here, especially their quarterback, Josh Allen. I mean, it's the kind of game now. I did not watch the entire game. That was red zone. That was jumping around. That was important, pivotal moments. Got a good chunk of it. I'm not sitting there watching the 4 quarters because I'm watching other games. That's the kind of game if you sit there and you actually say if it was the only game on, like Thursday night or Sunday night or Monday night. And that's the game that you're force-fed, like the game that we're going to be force-fed coming up this Monday between the Pats and my team. You're going to be force-fed a dull game, and it is what it is. You got to suffer through it and watch. We don't watch. It's your choice. But that's the kind of game yesterday that you watch and you invest 3 hours in, and if you watch the whole thing, you say, the hell did I just waste 3 hours on that slot for? None of these teams are going anywhere. And Bills fans, whoa, this guy's jumping all. And I was kind of, not saying I was on the Bills bandwagon leading, driving it, but I had a pretty good seat on the Bills bandwagon. And you're still going to win the division. I'm not saying, whoa, here comes Miami. I'm not even going to make that case, although in a week or two, maybe we can have that discussion. I don't think we need to have it today. But what I will tell you is this. You're 8 games in, you're 6-2. Great. For the Bills, for certain franchises, that is worthy of throwing a party. Your point differential's negative, just to let everybody know. Now, It's negative by 1 point.
Still.
It's 6. That is a hollow-ish 6-2. Now, keep in mind, within those 6 wins, they've played my team twice. Now, you watch my team play, whether it's, Pat Mahomes throwing for 5 touchdowns and 416, anybody who plays my team beats the crap out of them by multiple touchdowns where the game is over by the third quarter.
Except for the Bills.
Except the Bills. The Bills beat them 27-17 in week 1, and they beat them 18-10 a couple weeks ago. Cumulatively, they have outscored my team, the worst team maybe since the 76 Bucks, 45-27. Now you want to tell me, familiarity breeds contempt, and they know what the Bills do, and the Bills know what they do. Stop. You're supposed to walk on the field and wipe the floor with my team. And that's twice that the Bills have been unable to do that, and there are other things that you now, I believe, should begin to extrapolate from their other wins, like yesterday, that are little warning flares that are popping up and going over the NFL universe, like, warning, Bills aren't as good as you thought. Boom. Warning. Bills aren't as good as you thought. Boom. I mean, how many flares do you need to see before you drop them down a tier, which I already have?
Yeah, no, it's hard not to look at the last few games of this Buffalo Bills offense, BT, and say, what happened? I thought that Josh Allen had taken the steps that were elevating him towards one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. That run game, that run trait of his ability to make plays and to be a winner was going to enhance his pocket presence and his passing, prowess that was just around the corner. Because we saw it those first couple of games. It was like, man, this kid can really throw the ball, and he can throw it accurately. And then all of a sudden, we've seen a reversion back to inaccuracy, bad decisions, and maybe trying to do too much, or it could just be, he sees where they could be, and he wants to be the reason that they're going there, as opposed to just a piece of it. And I don't want to say he has that ego because I don't know him like that, and I feel like he's not like that. But I find it hard to explain why he's making the mistakes that he's making now when he wasn't making those mistakes 3 weeks ago, when it seemed like he was playing loose and carefree and having fun. Now it feels like he's strained every single weekend.
Well, are we maybe neglecting to focus on Brian Daboll a little bit, who just a month ago was thrust to the top of the list, basically,
yeah, that's right,
along with Bieniemy and some others, going to be a coach, and he might still be, but maybe the adjustments to Daboll after the first month are not being reciprocated by Daboll to offset the adjustments to him.
Possibly. Again,
they look like a very different offense.
They look like they can be beat every single weekend.
Very pedestrian.
Yes, pedestrian, and that they can be beat every weekend.
I agree.
When at the beginning of the year, it felt like, dude, who's beating this team?
Well, there was an explosive element to them the first couple of weeks. We're like, wow.
Yeah.
Not only is it,
Stephon Diggs. It was like there was big plays happening. Now maybe that defenses are just they're giving up. They're not giving you the big plays anymore. So they're just saying, if you're going to beat us, you got to dink and dunk us to death. Now, that can be hard, right? Certain quarterbacks can really excel at that. Like Tom Brady was a master of that. You want to take away my ability to throw the ball downfield? Great, because I'd rather dink and dunk you to death. And eventually we're gonna have 21 points and 40 minutes are going to run off the clock, and you're going to be like, wait, we got to score. We don't have the ball enough. But it feels like there's an impatience, maybe just a little bit of an impatience with this Bills offense right now that's making them play poorly. But the beauty of it, from a Bills standpoint, is that you're still winning. You know what I mean? It's not if you were playing this poorly and losing, that's when you would start to get upset about it.
Yes and no.
It's hard not to be upset about it because they're still winning these games where they're playing really poorly.
I say yes and no because the bar was raised, and now you almost get the sense that you need to pull it back down a peg and a half.
Yes.
And that's frustrating for fans. So I hear you. You played 8 times, you won 6. Almost every universe, that's great.
Yep.
But the bigger picture is there's just some real, again, flares the last couple of weeks. Think about this. We just put the stat on before. They're 19th in points per game, all right, which obviously isn't good, but they're first in third down conversion. So think about how many drives stall. Like nobody's more successful moving the chains to convert from a third down to a first down, but they're only 19th in points per game. That is not commensurate with what it should be.
No, it doesn't make sense. Like,
no,
it's an incongruency that doesn't match up. Like why doesn't this make sense to me?
Correct. It doesn't make sense because they're not as efficient as they should be. And listen, I'm prepared to do this. I've got the Steelers, I've got the Chiefs. I'm going to still keep the Ravens for sure on the top tier. I'm going to put the Browns and the Raiders over, even though ironically they played each other yesterday. I'm going to put them over here. I want to see better weather. I want to see some injuries, whatever. To me, I now have downgraded the Bills into the, not that I ever put them up into the first line, so maybe not downgrade, but they're with the Colts and the Titans for me in the AFC. And quite frankly, I think I would pick the Colts and the Titans both to beat the Bills.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations
like in a playoff
where
game.
You have to play your best game to win the game. Right? That's how I feel like this Bills team is right now. Whereas the Steelers, who we were talking about, that upper tier is you don't have to play your best game and you can still win a football game.
But even to me, yes, I do agree with that. But even more disconcerting is that the Bills are beginning to show that they can play their B- game and maybe still lose.
Yeah.
The elite teams, you bring out anything close to B, you're going to win.
Yeah.
The Bills don't. They just don't have the firepower. I'm not trying to not like. I feel bad because Bills fans. I'm really not. I mean, listen. You know who I root for, the team at the bottom of the basement we saw, but. I really want you guys to have a great season. I've told you that many times on Twitter. I express it all the time, but I'm going to call for what it is. And right now, your team doesn't look very impressive. You just don't. And I don't think you disagree if you're real. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.